Good evening, everyone. Right now on this stage, we are having one of the final discussions in this festival, and it's called Is Sugar a Taste of a Childhood? My name is Daira Zīle, and I'm news journalist, and I will moderate this discussion. And now let's meet the participants. We will start with Nele Normak, Head of Public Relations and Sustainability of the Coca-Cola Company. Good evening. Zane Skujiņa Rubene, Deputy of Parliament from Jaunā Vienotība fraction. Hello. Elīna Vrublevska, lecturer and researcher at the Riga Stradiņš University, Faculty of Social Sciences, and researcher at the Center of Eastern European Policy Studies. Good evening. And Elīna Mežapuķe, high school graduate and upcoming student. Hello. Also, every one of you can participate in this discussion by sending in your questions. There on the big screen, you can see two slides, one with a QR code, which you can scan with your phone camera, and the second one with a code flavor 2024, which can be used at slido.com. This is the site where you can get to the questions of our discussion. So if you have any question, please use one of these options. And in case if you need the translation for this discussion, you can get the headphones at our volunteers with blue hats. Yes, if you need yes, you can take. So let's start the discussion. A little introduction in the topic. So, health professionals around the world and in Latvia warn about deterioration of public health, especially among children and young people. More and more often we hear that the consequence of the pandemic is an epidemic of childhood obesity. Clearly, in the long run, this will negatively affect a number of areas, including an increasingly noticeable impact on the state budget. Do we know how to fight this kind of pandemic? What kind of health policy should we make? What restrictions and enabling measures can really make an impact? What tools have been used in Latvia so far, and are they effective? How can we influence the taste of the childhood? Is it even possible? So let's find out and offer effective ways that can lead to positive changes in the behavior of children and young people. So what is the current children health situation in Latvia, especially when we talk about obesity? Elīna Vrublevska, I think you can really answer this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, when we talk about Latvia, we usually love to say that we have the worst situation and that somewhere else the grass is greener. But actually, when we talk about the spread of non-communicable diseases and different factors that influence it, there are common threads and trends both in world and in Europe. As you mentioned, COVID-19 actually was, or still is, one of the catalysts actually that sort of shed light on certain things that are not working in public health and in how we resolve certain types of health issues, both politically and as a society. But if we look at Latvia, and actually if we look at a wider perspective of Europe, because, you know, we cannot actually think about health as a very separate entity in the box that it's only here in Latvia. Everything is global now, and this question also is should be considered on a larger scale. Then, yeah, childhood obesity is definitely one of the key areas where health policy creators are focusing right now. And it's not only an issue here in Latvia, it's the same issues that they have in Spain and the same issues they have in France and in Germany, where we see a trend where actually in the adolescent category, children are more susceptible to being overweight and being obese. And why it's a problem is because it could potentially lead to the development of non-communicable diseases for these children as they grow up and become adults. So basically, if we should think about it, if my kid isn't healthy now, then what will be his or her health in 10, 20, 30 years? And will he be capable to contribute to our society, both economically, intellectually, and in every other possible way? So that's kind of the scope of how we think about, or are we starting to think about, public health right now, and in particular also this question.
But the reasons for this problem, it's everywhere the same? Or in Latvia we have something different?
I think that there are reasons that are in common. One is our lifestyle, definitely. We are more prone to being on our iPads, iPhones, just more sedentary lifestyle. And then there are a couple of factors that are maybe more relevant to Latvia, like, for example, we were just discussing our education system and what is actually the redistribution of responsibility between society and policymakers. So who answers for what? So whose responsibility is to monitor public health in regards to children and adolescents? Is it only on the shoulders of parents, or is it a shared responsibility with institutions, policymakers, healthcare providers, etc.? So we have maybe a bit different situation where my feeling would be that at some point we thought that we, for example, if we resolve the issue of providing healthier meals, well, healthier, we can have a separate discussion of what type of meals are our children served in school, but providing healthier meals would be the solution. And then we'll say, okay, so kindergartens and schools are all okay, children are eating very good, they don't have any sweets, etc., etc. But then we sort of shift that responsibility. So if we have any kind of problems in this area, then that's the burden of parents, right? Because schools are okay, we sort of solved the problem there. But the issue is we don't look at the parents. We haven't looked at how we can change, actually, those of us who are parents. What kind of example we are providing? What is our lifestyle? Do we engage with our children? Do we explain the healthier, non-healthier choices, etc., etc.? So I think there has been a long-term miscommunication, maybe, where the responsibility has shifted, but nobody said to us, hey, you are now responsible for that.
And question for Elina Mežapuķe, how do you see this situation? Who is to blame? What are the habits of your friends? How do you see this?
Well, honestly, I think that people my age do consume a lot of sugar, primarily. If it's through sweets or sweetened drinks, there is a lot of sugar and unhealthy food consumption. Even foods that might seem healthy, like, let's say, yogurts, they usually have a lot of sugar in them. So that's a pattern I see in people my age that, well, yeah, sugar consumption, a lot of unhealthy foods, mostly because they are cheap and quick. You mentioned about who is to blame, I guess. Personally, I don't think I can point the blame at anyone. As Elina stated, that it is like, I would say, like a compound of people who need to work together to solve this issue.
But can we say that sugar is really a taste of a childhood? We all love sweets, sweet beverages. It's true, right?
I mean, yeah, I think that a lot of children are synonymous with sweets. So it's like, I would say, yeah, it is, but maybe we should change that in the future.
Yes, but we all admit that the problem is with obesity and very bad statistics here in Latvia. So what can we do about all that? What health policy measures have been implemented so far? And what can we do more? Who is ready to answer that? I think Zana.
Yeah, hi. Well, firstly, thank you very much for having this discussion. I saw a family there of 4 who ate ice cream, and then they heard the topic and they went away from the discussion. So I think we're on the right path. To be honest, after COVID, COVID really did an impact on healthcare and in general to Latvian society. So I'm not going to lie saying that we haven't done much for obesity now to change the situation currently. I think we're still trying to get out of the pot where we got after COVID, when we saw the ugly reality on how bad and unprepared healthcare in Latvia is. But fear not, in Latvia we do have a lot of strategies, which of course can be implemented only if we all work together. And I think this is something that is multifunctional across a lot of ministries, and it's not only like Ministry of Healthcare who should take care of this topic, but in general I can say that we have planned to have a strategy, another one, about health issues and how we can fight obesity. And I think in September, if I'm not going to lie, it's going to be public, so everyone will see what the Ministry of Healthcare is thinking about it. I can only comment that something that they're going to try to do is to increase the healthy years of a person in Latvia, because we all know, as Elena mentioned, we tend to say that everything is super bad in Latvia. It's half true. If we speak about the healthy years we have here for an average Latvian person. So that's something that the Ministry of Health will probably take care of, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. And Nele, how do you see this situation? Coca-Cola is such a big name, big company, very popular among young people. Do you feel in some way responsible for the bad statistics?
Thank you for having the opportunity to be here. And yes, as a global company, we need to address and we feel kind of responsible what we can do. We respect the parents and caregivers in their role, but what we can do as a company is that we can offer choice in our portfolio. As well, we can give you the guidance what you are drinking. We can share the information on calories, on ingredients. We can highlight this as a traffic label on a package. And what Coca-Cola company is more doing is we have a clear guidance and policies on responsible marketing. So here is how we can help parents and caregivers that we do not advertise and market our products under 13 years of age. And also we don't advertise and do marketing in any media channel where the audience is at that age less than 30%. Yeah. So this is what we as a company can do and contribute. And as it was said, we all have to be together in this to make it happen.
But when it comes to excise tax and taxes, it's also
we are paying it. We are paying.
We also have a question from the audience. And are there any good evidence of health policy implemented we should look into? How do you think? How can?
From the business side and from Coca-Cola company side and Coca-Cola Latvia and Baltics side, I can say that what we have seen in all Baltic countries that is working is self-regulation, for example, on reformulation, offering lower sugary products and having that commitment. So we have in our company, we have been doing it for years because we have global commitment, and then we have also European commitment through UNESDA. But we see how this society is working and the companies are coming together as well in Latvia. So we started, I think the Lithuanians, unfortunately, were the first ones. Then was followed by Estonians, and we are super happy that the Ministry of Health is having a self-regulation commitment. And I think this is what is positive for business as well, and for the larger society, to seeing that there is a common understanding that we have to do something together.
But are current measures really effective? We have been talking about this topic for at least 10 years and even more, but the statistics are only getting worse.
If I
Zana, yes.
Or Zana?
No, I think Alina can say what she wants to say, and then I can just add to
Okay.
it.
When we talk about health, we shouldn't expect to see immediate results. It's not overnight. There isn't a magical overnight pill that we can take to resolve all of our public health challenges and issues. So 10 years period, okay, we should see some improvements, but only in with the precondition that the policy has been consistent. And for example, the strategies that have been drafted have been meticulously implemented. The problem is that, and now we can specifically talk about Latvia, is that the documents are okay. You know, they say all the right things and they mention all the right points. But there are two issues. Usually issue number one is money. And that's just the way it is. And it's not only actually a problem for healthcare of Latvia, it's actually money and finances for healthcare is an global issue. Even when we talk about countries like Germany or Scandinavian countries, there still is or begins to be this perception that healthcare is actually like a black hole for finances that sucks everything in, and you don't see a return. It's not like you invest and you get percentage at the end of the year. No, you get percentage in 30 or 50 years when you see, you know, that the lifespan or healthy years lived has healthy years that the person can live has increased. Then you see the payback. You don't really see it immediately. So finances is one. And the second thing is what I find continuously lacking in these strategies is that, okay, we pinpointed issues, we know what we have to solve, but then we don't go into specifics of how practically, who will be responsible for which topic, which question, who will do what. We don't go into specifics, and then at the end of the day, when the strategy expires, nobody is actually responsible for not completing something, yeah? Because in this policy document, there isn't this specification of who should do what. And actually, a third thing that just came to my mind is that we are understaffed. We are understaffed in the health sector, not only with doctors and nurses, but we are lacking in that data to work with. There is a continuous struggle in healthcare we sort of know that we have an issue, but we don't have enough data to go by to understand what is the cause and what is the consequence and how to best tackle it.
Zana, can you add something?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with the data part, because now this is my second year as a member of the parliament, and I see that that's something that lacks all the time. Even when a member of parliament, if you ask a question to a ministry, they should respond in 5 days. Usually it takes 2 months because they don't have the data. So they're trying to find ways to find this data. And of course there is no data because we don't have a system which actually works in this situation. The good thing in this is that, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Minister of Healthcare, is that this is the second priority after the strategic plan, to have these systems working together, to have data that actually works and tells us in the future what we can do and in which direction we should go to. And if we talk about strategies and how they are being implemented, I think first thing that we have to understand is that our health is not only the responsibility of the Ministry of Health or strategic plans or whatever. It's actually something that we need to take care of for ourselves as well. because I truly believe that that's something that starts in the family. I don't have any kids, so I cannot really speak about, young parents, but I have siblings, and I see how they are growing up and how many sugar drinks and McDonald's and everything they're consuming. It's bad. And I know, and, it's like that because I know that my parents are kind of, doing that as well, and they show the example of how not to do.
You mentioned this new strategic. Can you tell something more about that?
Do you mean the strategic plan on 25, 29?
Yes, for the future.
Yeah, well, I have all politicians, we have a lot of papers that we prepare to have all the answers. And unfortunately, I don't have all the answers, but as I mentioned before, the biggest thing is to concentrate on the healthy years lived. So one of the things that we are trying to manage is to have more accessible healthcare, to have these crazy long queues cancelled. And even now, it might sound really bad, I know, but when we started in our first year in the parliament, for a kid in Daugavpils, for example, he had to wait for 4 years for an appointment to a dentist. Now it's 1.5. It's, of course, quite a lot as well, but it's less than it was, 2 years ago. So that's something that we have to work on. We also need to have a strategy on, step-by-step implementation on how can we help a kid who is already obese, who has this, weight, and we have to have like a step-by-step plan on, okay, this is the first, place he has to go, the second one, the third one, and, someone has to take care of him and, see how it goes.
But what about taxes? Should we increase them or not? Will it help?
That's the best question always in all the discussions. Taxes, everyone is always awake when people speak about taxes. Well, my personal opinion would be yes. The sugary drinks, should be with a bigger tax. But that's also something that has to come in discussions. We cannot just say that, okay, let's raise the tax and everything will be magically okay. It's not going to work. We, as colleague here from Coca-Cola mentioned it as well, that's something that we have to do together in a lot of levels. Increasing the tax wouldn't, solve the issue in any way.
Nella, can you agree?
Overall, we see that the tax on sugar or sugary drinks in Latvia has been, let's say, more than 20 years. We haven't seen the statistic that has improved to reduce any non-communicable diseases here. But this is what we are not even, let's say, arguing. For us, it's a point of a choice. We have seen that Latvians are already making healthier choices. They choose low or no-calorie beverages. But I don't think that tax is something that helps you in public health. Or it has to be really very well organized and collected. And I doubt that the sugary beverages are the number one sugar intake or cause of obesity. So this is what I was meaning, that we have to see the data at first and do all this, let's say, tax-related decisions reflectively. But I don't think any tax is not a kind of bill that fix your health.
If I can bounce off of the points that Zana and also Nell made, raising taxes should be a part of a package deal. It cannot be viewed as, the only solution, that we will raise taxes by 20-25% and boom, done. Nobody will drink sugary drinks or eat unhealthy foods. That's not the way that it works. But it can be a contributing factor if it's part of a larger long-term policy, I would say. And here in long-term, I would like to continue what Yuzana said about family. Because, as I said, I think we perceive, at least in Latvia, then that, okay, schools are covered, kindergartens are covered, but what happens in the family? And if we see the statistics and see that, for example, the obesity level rises with the age of a child. So what are the correlating factors there? The child becomes more independent. So the child goes, for example, I have a brilliant example in my family because I have 2 kids, 2 daughters, and one is 13. So she basically goes out on her own, and during the day, I cannot be by her side and cannot, it will sound like maybe bad, but I cannot control her choices anymore. Like I used to when, for example, she was 5 years old. When I prepared all her meals and I could control, so it was all my responsibility what she is eating. Now when she is 13, that's no longer only my choice. She has her own choice and I cannot be her shadow 24/7 and control. And she has peer pressure, she has societal pressure to sort of fit in, and if her friends will go to McDonald's, I understand she wants to go also. But then again, so my point is that we are coming back to viewing the problem on a larger scale. We as adults, what kind of example are we setting for our kids? And do we actually, well, that's maybe an even more like anthropological or even a philosophical question or parenting question. Do we spend enough time with our kids? So do we have the environment in our country to contribute our time physically to be present with our child when he or she is, for example, 13 or 15, not only 1 or 2 years old, Because then when we are present, we can teach them, we can lead by example. If I am at home and she's somewhere off with her friends, that it doesn't matter what I eat. It doesn't matter what kind of example will I be setting, she won't see it. So.
But when we go into the grocery store, we can see many options from which to choose. We can see drinks, very sweetened beverages, and also we have options with, for example, Diet Coke, zero sugar, and etc. Are they popular, these kind of drinks, among young people? Elena?
Well, I'll personally say that when I was younger, the sugary versions were more popular, I guess because zero always seemed like something weird, something different. But now that I've gotten older, well, 18, a lot of my peers drink Diet Coke. At least like in a class full of practically only girls, we only practically drink Diet or zero Coke.
Nella, how do you see, is this the way to solve the problem? Zero sugar diet drinks?
Well, I can confirm that if they are drinking zero, it is increasing in our volume as well. We see the increase. So this is what I was saying, that Latvians are already making healthier choices. Yeah. So we see the switch from Coca-Cola Original to zero and other low-calorie and no-calorie products. But yeah, it's interesting to see youngsters are already making, or this generation that is 18, 20 is making way more healthier choices.
Are the older people us? We are
yes,
making the bad
so
choices.
we are stuck with our history and our childhood, I would say. And their childhood is totally different. I think we need to kind of define or redefine our headline of this conversation.
Exactly, because I feel like one point that came to my mind, for those that are maybe 25 plus, like, didn't you have like sweets being a reward for something or something special? Like, for example, and I remember for myself also when Coke Zero, I think, came to our market the first time, I was like, what is this fake? It's not the real thing, you know, the real stuff is the real Coca-Cola, because that was something that was, I mean, in my family, it was rare. It was only on special occasions. We didn't drink Coke on a regular basis because, I mean, it wasn't it wasn't cheap. Like, we drank tea and water. But now it has become like an everyday regular thing, because we as adults, we reward ourselves. We feel like we should reward ourselves every day, and therefore we are rewarding our kids also.
And we also have a question from the audience, and the question to the student, Elena, is there an opportunity to have a good breakfast and lunch at school? Is it free of charge?
At least the system in our school is that if you're from a family of 3 or more kids, then lunch is for free. At least that's what I understand. And that is for people from the 8th grade, I think, but 8th grade below, school lunch is free. That's from what I understand of the system.
And do you like it?
Honestly, I do think it's a good thing that people who have more siblings have that opportunity to have free lunch. However, I do think that a lot more kids come from either like households where they're the only child or where they have another sibling, and I think that they might be more implored to like go buy something for lunch instead of get the school lunches. So I think that if free lunch for everybody in the future could be like a very optimal option. That's at least my opinion.
Yes, and Elena, you mentioned that not so long time ago sweets are available only as a celebration treat. Today it seems we have a party every day, as social media show this as norm. How to change that if we talk about social media in particular?
How to change social media? I mean,
trends, maybe.
Trends, influencers.
To set the new trend.
Influence. No, but I think I wouldn't say that. I would say actually that being healthy is a trend. At least that's what I feel like. Yeah, that's only my sort of like intuition. Making healthy choices is a trend. But at the same time, yeah, we're still rewarding ourselves. So it's like a give and take. So you go to the gym and then you reward yourself with a Coke afterwards.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, our culture is so tricky right now. Like, for example, how to tell a kid that's obese to go get some help for the threatening diseases that he or she might develop in the future without, offending anyone or canceling out someone or it becoming this real big thing, That's what actually came to my mind. That could be also potentially an issue because obesity in that way is a tricky thing. I don't think that we really view it as a disease. It's something that leads to diseases in the future, but it's not a disease. We don't view it actually as a disease in itself. We view it as a problem and a potential risk. So I would say that's also a challenge.
Zane, how politicians see obesity?
Good question. We eat super unhealthy, I'm not going to lie. But I eat a lot of sweets, so I'm probably not the best person to ask this question. But just to add a bit on the social media part and the influencer stuff, I think what Elena already mentioned was that it is quite popular to have this healthy lifestyle and to post Instagram posts on how you're doing a gym workout or, have a walk for my mental health day or something like that. And it is kind of responsibility of the influencer as well because he has to understand that he's a public person. He has to, take in mind that a lot of people from different backgrounds are, looking at him. But at the same time, well, you cannot really be not yourself, you know. So if you want that sugary drink at some point, you're going to probably take it, and then the question is whether you're going to share it on social media or not. Yeah.
Yes, the obesity is a global problem, as we mentioned before. And what are the lessons that Latvia can take from other countries that have maybe successfully solved similar challenges? Who can answer?
Not sure whether that's a very successful thing, but before the discussion, we spoke about the health education, which used to be in Latvian schools, and now it's cancelled since like 2011 or 2013. And I think that's something that has to be brought back in the educational system. And I think that's something that works in different countries as well. Because we do have this education system where we try to implement the topic in, like, you know, in math we are talking about this kid who is obese, you know, and we're talking about social issues and trying to have this integrated school learning process. But as we can see, it's not really working in Latvia, not now at least. So I think the health education might be something that might work to at least speak about these issues, to speak about, you know, that breakfast is a very crucial part of the day, that you have to eat your veggies, and that you have to do your physical activities at least 30 minutes per day, and that you have to, you know, stand up from the chair every 45 minutes, because that's something that you will feel when you're 30 if you're not going to do it. And I know that because I turned 31 and I can feel it. So, yeah.
Nela, you have global experience. What other countries do about this problem, or neighboring countries?
One good example, for example, is Denmark. They used to have tax for sugar beverages for 80 years, I think, if not 100. And then in 2014, they found out that it's not working. So we rather see the disruption for the business, to the crime and all these kind of things. And they just decided that, okay, if this has not impacted that way, let's choose another way. So they added 1 additional hour for physical activity in the schools. So instead of 1, they have 2 in week. So 2 hours for really a role modeling that this is what you have to do. I think this is one of the good examples. Well, in Estonia, we have, for example, the Olympic Committee is having a competency center, literally like encouraging children for more active lifestyle. And also we have the school program that is not so result-oriented, but rather participation and activity-oriented. So that might also be good for kids, that those who do not want to be competing, but they can still do something and be part of the team. And we know how this new generation wants to be part of the community and being together. So I think these are all working, but as it was said before, there is no kind of short-term solution. We have to wait and see how these methods are kicking in, and everyone is getting acquainted with the new way of living and new choices.
Mm-hmm. A question for Elina Vrublevska. What is your take on Iceland's policy? Do you know something about?
I know where the question is coming from. I actually talked a bit about. So the one thing how we can approach things is through not like easy solutions, but maybe solutions that will give policymakers instant gratification and something that they can put up on their campaign posters and say, there, I did it, and here are the results. But as I said before, long-term solutions for health policy is actually the way to go. I'm really bad with names, but in the 80s there was this brilliant scientist, as people of Iceland now claim that he is, from the US, who actually came. So basically what Iceland's policymakers did, they had a problem with adolescent kids in school where they would engage in drinking after school profusely. So it became a problem. And so the policymakers really didn't know what to do about it. And this is just, again, an example of a route that policymakers can take. And so they hired a psychologist who specialized in adolescent behavior as a consultant. So this is actually a story about how we can all work together and how policymakers should actually listen to different experts and bring them on board when we are creating these strategies and bills and laws, or even discussing things in committees. So that they brought this scientist for him to develop actually a policy plan on how to tackle this issue. And what he found out and what he said, it was, okay, leave the kids alone, because they tried to restrict even that kids weren't allowed to be outside after 6 o'clock, and really tough actually stuff. And he immediately said that wasn't working. And the group to solve this problem, the group that you should be focusing on are the parents. Because the situation with the parents was that they couldn't really monitor what their kids were doing because they were at work, I think up until 8 o'clock or something like that on weekdays. And on Saturdays and Sundays, well, as we all know, we are sometimes so exhausted that, quality time with your kids actually takes up a lot of energy. Let's not lie to ourselves. So what he actually did, he tackled the parents and the policy around working hours. So the approach here was to reduce the working hours for parents, so then they can spend this time in the evening on weekdays with their kids. And another thing that they did was create a program with free activities that kids and parents can do together, adolescents especially, because this was more of a 13, 12 plus problem. That they can do on Sundays and Saturdays together as families. So this is the thing that I talked about in the beginning, when your kid grows out of the age where you control him and he sort of goes on his own. How can we create an environment where we can still spend quality time together with our kids? So this is the approach. So I would think if we can learn something from a broad experience, I hate when we try to copy anything, like when we say, the country this and that had this great plan, let's just do it the way that they did it. It never works. Never, ever, ever has it worked. But what we can copy is, the way of thinking. Okay, if we have this problem, maybe let's bring on board experts, and not only experts that are at the grasp of our hand, but really do your market research, see who are the top guys, girls, organizations, whatever, and work closely with them and try to think outside the box. Not always the solution to your problem is within that box. Sometimes it's also somewhere outside. And when you tackle that specific group or that specific question, your other problem also gets resolved.
But can we all agree on national level that the taxes only are not effective enough to solve this problem?
No, again, but it's a part of the deal. It can be a part of the deal, but it cannot be sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Of course, I would hate to see, no offense, that Coke costs less than water. It wouldn't be a normal situation. I think we can all agree with that. But at the same time, our goal cannot be to increase the income from taxes. Our goal should be health and improving the health of the children and the adolescents, not getting more in our budget. That should be sort of a welcome added bonus to our goal, not the goal itself.
Zane, are politicians ready to do something more about this problem?
About the taxes or about the
No,
topic we're
obesity
currently...
and so.
Yeah, it's really well, as I already mentioned, and the first priority of the Ministry of Healthcare was to reduce the prices of medicine. So that's something that has already been done. It's not connected with obesity now, but you know, you have to take one step at a time before you jump into the next quest. And the next big quest, of course, is to do the strategy and understand how we can actually implement it. Because if we have the strategy, it's amazing, but if it's, you know, not implemented correctly, then it's not going to work. It's going to be just a paperwork which is, you know, made with a lot of work from a lot of people, and it's not going to work. So, of course, we are ready to speak about this topic, and we understand the importance of it. And we see that in statistics, that every fifth kid in Latvia is with, you know, with obesity. So I would say that we probably need to see what will the colleagues from Ministry of Health come up with the strategy for 2025, 2029, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, hopefully it's not going to be only, you know, the tax question, and it's going to be with, as Elina said, the full package of a lot of things that we can actually implement at some point, hopefully.
We have some questions from the audience, and maybe some of you know what amount of daily sugar intake is acceptable for a healthy and balanced diet. Do you know?
I'm pretty sure for a woman, a daily intake of 24 grams of sugar. That's for women. And for men, I think it was 30-something grams of sugar.
I think, according to World Health Organization, this 54 grams. So you can really count that all your daily intake from sugar can be 54 grams, and then you can adjust your diet accordingly, what you have.
And also, do you have an idea how a regular person can easily follow this sugar intake? Is there a way to do it easily?
Yes. Look at the information on the product information on the labels. Try to read this, and maybe this is what we need to teach as well, raising the awareness of how to read these labels, because this is a mandatory information with Euro directions and directives and laws, so it has to be there. So you have the key information, how Coca-Cola is reinforcing that we have the traffic label, which is not mandatory, but we were thinking that this might help our consumers to be more aware what they are drinking, that which products are let's say, full sugar and which one has no sugar or has less sugar. So this is what we were thinking that might help them to make the better choice for their diet. But I'm keen to understand what the young generation is thinking, how we can actually change all these kind of health directions, what we have to do, businesses and policymakers. So that maybe just throwing back the question to Elina, that what the youngsters want us to do.
Honestly, did you mean like to improve our health? I think that what Zana mentioned about, I don't know if the corporations can do it, but definitely bringing back health class, or just educating the people on sugar, on how much you should consume, on how to read the labels on products. I feel like a major thing that should be taught is, why is sugar unhealthy? Like, what does the unhealthy even mean? And I feel like if kids and just teenagers were given that context, then I think that it would help.
And one more question, more aimed at Nele. I'm wondering if you consider Coca-Cola Zero as a good alternative.
it is a good alternative to sugar product versus sugar product. But I think everything is good in moderation. I can tell you that if you eat 1 kilogram of carrots, it's not healthy for you. So this is also confirmed by scientists. So I think let's not have a myth what is healthy. I think let's look into that we reduce sugar, salt, fat, food and beverages in our daily menu and daily diet. Move a bit more, and then I think it's good. So I would not say that one product is better than other, but I think everything is, we have to look in moderation.
Elena Vrublevska, question for you. How do you see on educational level we have to work more on the new program in schools?
I think that it's ironic that we talk about lack of information in 21st century when we feel like we are overwhelmed on a daily basis with information. But I would completely agree that I think more focus on health education should be a top priority, or should become a top priority. I mean, it's not only the question about, teaching how much sugar can you consume, or how much fat or carbohydrates per day, etc., etc. It's also a topic about sex education and mental health education, amongst other things. Not, completely denying the greatness of our integrated educational approach. But again, as I see on my kids, I don't really see a very sort of straightforward, aimed approach to teaching certain things about health and how you should approach different aspects of your health. It's sort of integrated in different aspects of teaching, but there isn't really a focused approach, and I think it sort of disseminates the essence of what does it mean to be healthy, not only in your body, but also in your mind, because I believe health is a all-around thing. It's not only your body, it's also your mind. So yeah, I would be an advocate for health, either health classes or specific seminars that should be taught to students in schools or things like that. I think we can find solutions. And the other thing that you mentioned, I mean, love them or hate them, but influencers. I think that if the Ministry of Health decides to target them as one of the stakeholders in promoting public health and promoting lower sugar intake or even healthier choices, I think that with the appropriate strategy it could be a really great asset and a great tool. But again, it's not the one of a kind miracle pill. It cannot be only influencers or only taxes or only this or only that. It should be a comprehensive approach.
So maybe the question should be addressed also for Ministry of Education, maybe Ministry of Culture.
But that's actually a point that should be stressed, that I hate to begin sentences like this, but in today's global society and global world, health no longer can be viewed as a separate entity or separate thing or separate question, irrelevant of finances, economy, security even. I mean, we have discussions about the resilience, not only mental or emotional resilience of our society, but physical resilience, the ability of people to be under physical pressure for long periods of time. So basically, are we in shape? That's a problem that isn't even funny anymore. It's not about going to the gym. It's about our ability to defend our country if that day might come someday. So health should not be viewed as something that, when I get my finances in check and when everything else is my life is in check, then I will go to the doctor, or I will address my, my obesity or other things. It should be a priority both for us individually and as a society, and also for policymakers.
Zane, can you add something to this from political point of view?
Yeah, I mean, Elena already, said everything I want to say, because as she mentioned, healthcare is, and healthy society is our security. Because if we look at, health in general, that kind of, goes in all the directions. You, Daira, already mentioned as well that it's, the question for Ministry of Education, for culture. It really is. It really goes, in hand with every ministry. And I'm really happy to see that a lot of ministries are already working together. I have a lot of good examples while I'm, an MP, and I see that it works. But of course, I've seen also these football games when it's like, this is a really cool topic. Really, we would like to take care of it, but not really our direction. So, and I've heard that many, many times. But once there is one, policy maker, one ministry that actually takes care of that, in this case, it's Ministry of Health, who is going to take care of that, and kind of do the policy in Latvia, then it kind of works together with all of the ministries, and we all, can agree that it's not only the question of Ministry of Healthcare.
What will be the situation in the next few years? How do you see that?
I wish I had a crystal ball, because then I could actually answer the question. But I do hope that, these kind of discussions are also important if you're, viewing them here or live, or, after 1 year when you decide to be healthy, you come up with this discussion. It's like, okay, this is going to be my year now. It's really cool that we speak about these issues, because if we don't speak about them, people are not going to be informed about that, and they probably wouldn't think that it's an issue. We have so many things on our head, on our hands every day, that health is usually on the last top priority. It's like, okay, so I have to go to work, I have to, do the dishes after I come home, I have to, spend time with my husband, with my kids, and then it's like, I had to, go to the doctor, but okay, I still have some weeks to do that. So, yeah.
And the last question to a student, but very shortly, is it even cool to be active and do sports and be healthy? Is it available when you were growing up?
Honestly, I think it is like a cool thing. Like, especially I think for guys, like if you are I do this, I do that. I think it's like a cool thing. Even for girls too, I think it's. Yeah, especially as you get older, you develop, let's say you did a sport as a kid, and now you're really good at, let's say, volleyball. So that's like a cool trait. As Eileen said, that it is becoming a trend to be healthy and to work out besides sports. And what you asked about, was it available when I was younger? I think it was, yeah. I had, coming up from a smaller town, I think we did have a lot of options to do, yeah.
But will there be change in the statistics after a few years?
I don't have a crystal ball either, sorry.
But you mentioned before that the results of the policy we can see very slowly.
I don't think that next year or even in 5 years we will see a dramatic change in this. What I would hope to see, the minimum program, is that we have very concrete, very specific steps that policymakers have mapped out for us as a society and institutions to take towards achieving the goal of decreasing the percentage of obesity amongst children and adolescents. I would love to see, and I would hope to see, that these policies are really put in place in a sustainable way, where they don't suddenly change with the change of the health minister. Because I think that's one of the most annoying things, I think, in our politics, is that, you know, the elections come, priorities change, and it's like, okay, swipe off everything that my predecessor did because he's a fool. Now I will do everything my way and different way. There's no continuity in policy. And I think that's a real challenge and something that our policymakers should think about.
Yes, so we can all agree that it's a complex question and problem that can be solved only complex, and it starts with ourselves and in our families and in schools, and then we talk about national level and taxes. So thank you for all for participating in this discussion, and have a nice evening.